The women that are attracted to men that have, this sort of opportunity and that have money, the money is a consequence of them developing themselves, of them willing to do the hard thing of putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort. So just because this person has money doesn't mean that's the primary reason you're attracted to them. They have money as a result of doing the hard work, and they've built up skills and competency in a certain area of their life. So when I look at life coaching, I take all the aspects that I learned from dating coaching, as I mentioned previously, and all the other aspects of my life and what I've coached, but I draw the invisible lines between each field. I say, well, where is dating the same in terms of business? Where is dating the same in terms of marketing or sales or I don't know, gardening or something like that? You can draw invisible lines between all of the fields there, and that's what builds up those universal principles that you can use in coaching. At least that's how I do it anyway. Um, on the subject of toxic masculinity, this is a debate that I've had a lot over the last 2 years. Context is required. When I'm on the road, I'm traveling with a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm traveling with a lot of businessmen, I'm traveling with other dating coaches. We're all doing crazy things at strange hours of the day in multiple different cities over the course of a couple of weeks. When I came back to Melbourne during COVID, I was surrounded by a completely different environment. So the conversations were very different on the road to what they were when I came back home. And I noticed that even things that I would not consider to be encroaching on people's boundaries were very heavily considered so by the group of people that I knew in Melbourne. But that being said, none of them were hyper successful. None of them were extremely happy in their dating lives or had long-term relationships or even just casual relationships that they were happy about all the time. Some of them weren't even in relationships and had never been. So I always looked at their advice and their opinion with a grain of salt, because I'm like, if you want to take the advice of the people that don't have the things that you want, where do you think that's going to leave you?
Exactly. I'm so glad to hear you say that because I think we're on the same page. One of the things I've found is that a lot of people tend to have this snowflake mentality when it comes to approaching women. One of my friends, my close friend of mine, was telling me that you shouldn't even approach women because in the 21st century, there's Tinder, there's online dating, and some girls are going to find that offensive. But I think it's been a very traditional attitude in the West and pretty much throughout all cultures that only the brave deserve the fair, that in order to actually find a beautiful woman, you need to have the courage to at least approach her and to be willing to risk making yourself look like a fool, even if it means risking her not liking you and the fact that you approach her. Because whereas there's this whole attitude I find within the third wave feminist kind of mindset that it's wrong for a guy to hit on, when I say hit on a girl, essentially to approach her, that kind of thing. I think back to this Gillette commercial that was really popular a few years back, and I was heavily criticizing this scene where this guy tries to talk, simply just approach a woman, and this brother's like, "Yo, man, what you doing? You shouldn't be." Basically, tries to stop this guy, and I'm like, and this was deemed as being an appropriate thing in the commercial, and I'm watching this and thinking, what? This is absolute insanity, and my feminist friend here is telling me, yeah, man, that's right. You shouldn't be hitting them. I'm like, but the whole idea of being what I would call a man is having the courage to actually approach women. It's not even about the success. It's about being willing to risk making a fool of yourself, And the fact that in this 21st century mentality, even the idea of pursuing a woman is considered to be borderline inappropriate, like even making your intentions to her clear, like, I find you really attractive. The whole line between harassment, like even looking at someone, I've actually heard someone say is inappropriate if you look too enthusiastically. So it's just a conversation I always find interesting because there are different schools of thoughts. It's like, how do you actually date in the 21st century? And this is a good topic to go into because whereas the whole world of dating has changed over the last few years, there is a very different attitude now because of the online dating world. Do you give tips on that? And how do you think that has perhaps changed the the landscape when it comes to dating in the 21st century?
Yeah, so I used to help people navigate the online dating community quite frequently. It's something that I still do. It's not something that I primarily do, but this subject, this particular topic gives me the shits. It drives me fucking crazy because what is the alternative? And this is the question that I always ask someone that wants to put in a new world order or wants to overthrow the government or wants to say, no to X, Y, and Z. I'll say, okay, let's say we do it your way. Or let's say that we get rid of this thing. Where does that leave us? What is the alternative if this is not the solution? And that's what I would propose to a lot of people out there. What is the alternative? If you're not approaching girls, if you're not meeting them at bars or clubs or libraries or malls or on the street or whatever, you're relying on online dating and recommendations from friends. What if you're not a very popular person? What if you're not very charismatic? What if you don't have a large friendship group? What if the friends that your friends have are not into the same area of life that you're in? Where is the mismatch here? If you work in sales, you don't rely on a passive approach of just hoping that the marketing brings in leads. No, you go out there and you prospect. You go out there and find the people that you think will want to buy your product. And it's the same thing in dating. You can't sit back and rest on your laurels and take a passive approach. There is a balance that is required, both you being active and you being passive in your approach to cultivating a better dating life. And I think from my experience, the reason why people are so opposed to people approaching people on the street and the reason why it gets such a bad rap is because people don't know how to do it and therefore come off creepy. And so what do they say? This is a creepy thing to do. It's not socially acceptable. So let's shut down any format or medium that promotes this sort of behavior.
Absolutely.
And then as a result, it just leaves us in a deeper hole. We just keep on digging that hole and then wondering why we can't see the sky anymore.